Hello, everyone, and welcome to the breakout session on Collaborating for Success, Emerging Leaders for Agenda 2030 and 2063. We realize that the Agenda 2063 is the blueprint for a transformative Africa, and the successful delivery of this agenda requires engagement from all businesses, with the youth being a key force as both consumers and drivers of businesses. There needs to be a clear, actionable step to push youth engagement on the SDG to the next level and scale their impact on the world's top priorities. This is one of the reasons why the United Nations Global Compact birthed the Young SDG Innovators program. The YCIP, for those who might not know, is a program designed for young professionals working in companies that participate in the UNGC to equip them with the skills to advance sustainability efforts, drive innovation, and deliver tangible, sustainable solutions for their companies. The UN Global Compact's Young SDG Innovators program marks a groundbreaking step towards the creation of a truly enabling system for young employees of companies around the world to get involved, lead change through innovation and collaboration, as well as measure and report in their contributions to the SDGs. Considering this breakout session will be an opportunity for the companies that actively participated in the YC to showcase their 10-month journey and experiences throughout the program. And to do justice to this, I have here an amazing Pan-African panel comprising of leaders passionate about advancing corporate sustainability and actively driving change for a better future through tangible market solutions. We have Lusani Nemalili, who is a public policy and engagement executive on the Vodacom corporate affairs team in South Africa. Welcome, Lusani. She's joined by Koketso Mandonsela, a specialist on employee relations for Vodacom South Africa. We also have Rose Magas, the founder and CEO of Rover Digital Kenya, and Ayo Moritala, the managing partner, Neuro Resources Nigeria. Please join me to welcome the amazing panel as we'll engage in this interactive discussion on collaborating for success, emerging leaders for Agenda 2030 and 2063. And I'm Gloria Okore, the head of programs and innovation at Impact Hub Lagos, and I will be moderating this session with the amazing panel. So to the audience, feel free to type any questions or comments that you might have as the conversation is ongoing. Now over to the panel. We understand that the youth play a key role in leading change and collaboration to drive the Agenda 2030 and 2063 respectively. And I also know that the companies here are actively doing something about this, and that's one of the reasons why you participated or why you have active participation in the Young SDG Innovators program. A report from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development shows that between 28 to 45% of people have heard of the goals, and a report from ISEC's Youth Speak suggests that young people have a higher level of SDG awareness than average. So I would like to, hear from the panel about what your involvement was in the YC, the innovative solutions that you developed during the program, and in general, what is your own perception of the SDG? Like, what is your perception? What do you think the SDG is to you as an individual and as a company executive? And I will start from Koketso.
Hi, good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me. So for me, when I think about, the UN SDGs, I used to, when I first came into contact with them or started engaging fully with these UN SDGs, I thought about it and I looked at it and I thought to myself, you know what, this is basically honestly a collaboration of a lot of the things that people across the world are going through, right? So you look at our various communities, you look at, just the inequalities even that exist across Africa. And you look at these SDGs and you're saying, well, these goals really are trying to address each and every one of those. And we should really look at it. And for me, it was almost like, how the Constitution actually functions. it's there to guide you on how you're actually expected to behave. So the UN SDGs were there for me, where it was some sort of constitution of basically how to conduct myself as an individual, to contribute to what we are trying to achieve towards a better and united and peaceful Africa. But then, you know, I joined then the YSIP, and in there I realized that we all have a role to play. And by all, I'm talking the government, I'm talking, you know, the businesses that are operating in Africa, and including the employees that are within these businesses, or the individuals that are interacting with government on a daily basis or a monthly basis, or, you know, whichever. So we basically all have to ensure that we're actually looking after the various communities in which we operate in. These are our customers, and these are people we also have to live with, and these are also our families. And there is still a way to still make your profits, to still be a very successful business, even if you are meaningfully and purposefully engaging and operating within the communities that we are operating in.
Great one, Kaketsu. I completely agree with you. I honestly think it's a collective effort. Yeah, so I would love to hear from Ayo. Can you share your perspective, what you feel like the SDG means to you as an individual, and even to you as a company executive, the managing partner for Neuro?
Good morning, everyone. And thank you for calling my attention to that. Well, for me, I had interest in the SDG right from MDG days, before we even went into the SDG. That's been that interest to do something in the community. But the SDG helped to create a kind of a focus of what I think we should focus on to help our environment. Now, bringing out into the organization, a lot of organization usually focuses on, so the perception for me that, yes, organizations want to do CSR generally. Then the SDG now helps. It's a good thing to then say, okay, you want to do this, why don't you tailor what you're doing towards achieving these SDG goals as an organization. So it actually helps to create a perception, a focus as to what to do that could turn around the way things are being done without even affecting the bottom line of your business. But it's like being responsible, trying to make an impact in what we're doing. And for us, it's been it's a huge experience. For us, it's been something we drive within the organization. So having now been part of the YSRP was a big deal. In fact, to join the YSRP program, my organization is predominantly youth-based. Funny enough, don't mind my gray hair, I'm still very young. I just have gray hair naturally. So I could say the average age in my organization is about 28, 29 in itself. So to even have the 3 members, of which Tomiwa is one of them, to join, we had a competition in-house. There was a competition, and we asked all of them, everybody, to do a 15 slides on any of the SDG goals that they would love to implement if they were given opportunity. And I got some of my friends to be part of the panelists to assess their presentation. And I told them to submit without their names. They should just use numbers to submit. So when they're assessing their presentation, it will be as plain as possible. And the 3 of them were chosen, Tom Washego and Cheo, and that was how we were chosen. You know, so it's been an experience even within the organization. Now everybody's buying into it. And I think it's a long way to go even for us as an organization, that we still have a lot to do. Now looking at our business itself and begin to tailor it, what we're doing, into 2 or 3 of the SDG, that how can our business help this part. And the thing that the YSIP also created is that implementing this SDG, not necessarily as CSR, but doing it also doing it from a business angle, that you're solving a problem, like a social entrepreneur, that you're solving a problem and you're still making income for yourself, even as a business. So it's an eye-opener, and it helps a lot. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Ayo. Thank you very much. I think what you just did there. I mean, a lot of executives or a lot of companies should probably adopt that. Just, just allowing the staff to be conscious, or the employees to be conscious of the SDGs, and, just allowing them to have that mindset. Thank you so much for sharing. I will go over to Lusani. Please share with us your experience in the YC, what the SDG means to you as an individual and as an executive with Vodacom.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gloria, for the platform, UNYCIP and UNGC as well, for the platform. I think maybe just to start off by clarifying, I'm not an executive yet at Vodacom. I'm pretty much still on my way there, though I do work, part of my work involves executives in the company as well. So I think the 10 months I was on the program, I think I was challenged a lot, right? To look at not only the purpose of the business and the purpose of the solution that we presented, but also, how that aligns with, as an example, the principles or personal principles that I live by. We live in a world where, there's so many things, out there that we can be part of, but sometimes we become part of things that really do not resonate with our principles. And I certainly believe that, the UN SDGs are just one of those things where I believe everyone has a set of principles they can align themselves with the SDGs with. Whether it's a passion for education, whether it's a passion to solve climate change, as we've seen recently at COP26, or whether it could be any of the of the SDGs, creating partnerships that create valuable ecosystems. That's just one of the things. And I think what stood out for me is how much we spent in sessions called, or the theme was pretty much how we ought to love the problems that we have and the problems that exist in our society. And in the beginning, I was more centered around, yes, let's find a solution. Here we are. This is what's going to be a hit. But then I realized, for us to be able to come with a solution that is comprehensive, that brings the right people to the table to collaborate, we actually are in need to understand the extent and the depth of the problem that we are facing, right? And so we might say, for example, in line of Vodacom's business, we might say, no, the problem is that, people don't have, access to connectivity, but connectivity is just one aspect of the problem, right? Whether people that will bring, for example, the devices that, that connectivity will enable, right? What is the content are we going to put on the other side of the user's screen? So that journey, literally, I think it changed my whole mind. And I think since today, every single time I work, I focus on, what is the problem? What is the depth of the problem? How deep does the problem go? And I ought to love and spend time enough in this area of discovering the problem before I even get to the solution. So that has been the journey in the past. Well, in the 10 months I was in the YC program, and yeah, up to this moment, yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing, Lusani. Yeah, very, very mind-opening, the YC program. I couldn't agree with you more. A lot of perceptions that people had about SDGs, just relating it just to CSR alone, and just thinking, oh, we're doing separately. But now just, the YC gave a whole new perspective. I will go over to Rose from Rover Digital. Rose, please tell us your experience in the YC and what the SDG means to you as an individual.
Thank you so much, Gloria, and to all the panelists who've spoken before me. Really incredible contributions they have had. And I think for me, I'm just going to step back and introduce myself again as the founder and CEO of Rover Digital, which is an ICT firm based in Nairobi, Kenya. And we also in artificial intelligence and machine learning, and now getting in fixed wireless communications to be offering that. We started our journey as a company by becoming into this SDG space by becoming signatories of the Global Compact, which we became signatories in 2020. And in the same year, we did sign up for the Women Empowerment Principles as signatories too. But for us, what this has then meant that we had to identify the specific SDGs that we need to plug into and then extend that to practical situations that we're doing in the company. So the SDGs that we specifically have been plugging in within the programs that we're running in the organization was SDG number 4, the quality education, and SDG number 8 on decent work and economic growth. And I know we are having this conversation against the background that we are also looking at Agenda 2063, which again, for us by extension, we're also looking at the aspirations of the Agenda 2063, and really focusing around the first aspiration of a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. And more specifically, goal number 2, where we're looking at well-educated citizens and skills revolution underpinned by science, technology, and innovation. And you will see as I talk about our journey, why that is important to us. And we also are plugging into aspiration number 6, where we're looking at an Africa whose development is people-driven. The African people, especially its women, youth, and children. So really, it's looking at the engaged and empowered youth. So for us as an organization, plugging into that and as more part signing, and then after you've signed and become signatory, takes 40 members were the ones participating in that, but just a champion supporting from behind. But some of the initiatives that we have had as a company is one, of course, having our staff participate in the Young SDG Innovators program. And for me, it wasn't just we were.
We hear you, but it's going in and out.
Sorry, I don't know my connection and, well, the African challenges.
Okay.
Okay, so I think I'll continue in just finishing in what I was saying. So for us, again, as I was talking about having the 4 of our staff members participate in the SDG, in the Y SDG program was really a big thing for us. And we did not only participate in that, but at the end of it, actually, my colleagues came out the top, number 1 in the category that we were in Kenya, and number 2 overall. So for us, we believe that the innovation challenge that we're actually offering that is a solution that is scalable, that can then be used beyond that. So off of that particular journey, we did learn a lot, and through the mentorship and the sessions that the team had, that what we're doing then impacts beyond the small scale that we were doing it at. And now we're looking at how we can actually partner with more organizations, partner with schools, partner with different corporates to be able to scale this program, which is the Kids Coding Camp, where we are impacting children the ages of 6 to 17 years of age with artificial intelligence coding skills. And for me, we are in the 4th industrial revolution era, and we cannot say we are having an educated youth, an empowered youth, without equipping them with the skills that are needed currently.
Thank you so much, Rose, for those insights. Really interesting how the journey in YCP has been for everyone. So I would like to also throw this question to the panel. A lot, usually when the SDGs are mentioned, I mean, people keep saying things like collaboration and then the SDG 17. So I'd love to get your insights. Do you think that in terms of collaboration and a collective effort to achieving Agenda 2063 for Africa, and 2060, do you think it's a shared responsibility equally, or do some people have a higher responsibility than others? And if you feel that some people have a higher responsibility, who are the stakeholders? Who are those people? What are the sectors that you feel have a higher responsibility or role to play in achieving the Agenda 2063? And anyone can take a go at this. Okay, Lusani.
Right. I think I'll begin here, and I'll do a bit of a reflection on obviously the solution that as Vodacom we pretty much came up with during the course of the program. I think maybe the framing of our approach should most probably be different. If we're thinking of ourselves as a business or as any other stakeholder, when we think of collaboration, we have to think in an ecosystem where we know what position or what role do we play in that ecosystem. And the reason I'm saying that is because, for example, in the solution that we presented at Vodacom also spoke to SDG 4 on quality education, but we were looking at the provision of those resources. So essentially what it was like a one-stop shop, or what we call your build your bundle. We can bring together books, study lamps, at the most practical sense into one package that you can take out either over a long period of time, or you can buy instantly, but what we call an educational bundle. Now, when we look at that, we see ourselves, or we saw ourselves as Vodacom, as an enabler in this situation, where we can provide the platform where people can buy, right? Whether it's through our app or where people can come into the store, or anywhere online in our online outlets where people can bundle this thing together for it to either be delivered to them or for them to collect it. Now, we cannot speak of education in isolation because the government already has efforts in one way or another towards that. So in this whole ecosystem, we ask ourselves, who are we? Are we an enabler in this ecosystem? What is the role of government? Are they a catalyst or are they enabler? Do they put together regulations that allow for businesses to thrive in this SDG 4 of education? And how can businesses plug in order to accelerate and be catalysts into bringing about sustainable solution in terms of education? And I think that's where for me it begins, right? In our ecosystem at Vodacom, we looked, what are the partnerships, for example, we already have, right? We already have partnerships with the OEMs, right? The Huawei, Samsung, or all this other, and therefore from there we said, okay, so we are enabling getting all these things out to people. What other partners can we bring to the table? So publishing houses, most probably for electronic books. We know we already have a partnership with Walton's, Bidvest. In terms of STEM, we bring an ecosystem of businesses together, and we are coming to supply the educational resources that learners and students, all the way from I could say even grade R now, because children at that level are already having cell phones and tablets in their hands, all the way to university. That's the journey that Vodacom, from a sustainable point of view, is walking together with young people, and wants to present that through the solution that we have put forward in the YSEC program. I think I'll end it there for now. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Lusani. I see Ketsu has her hands up. Okay.
Yes, I do. Thank you for that. Also, just to add on to what Lusani has said, we quite also, big on inclusivity. And I think also that's just what the agenda is also looking into, right? To make sure that nobody gets left behind on this journey, that we are all on to essentially reaching where we want to be after we've reached all these UN SDGs. And we all want to be part of that, obviously, because I think we have established that should we actually achieve all those goals, we could actually transform the planet. So we shouldn't really underestimate the type of impact that each and every person can actually have by contributing in one way or another towards this particular journey. One of the things that I think is also quite, or would be quite helpful, is that we include even the individual, So yes, our companies have already started having programs that are geared towards contributing towards the SDGs, towards the various agendas for 2030 and 2063. But I think also just as an individual, right? And I guess we can look at whether or not are our youth and just the general person or the average person pretty much educated and clued up on what we are really trying to achieve with these various agendas. And I believe that, if we just look at how globalized our communication has become, I mean, the world has become so small. Everything is at the tip of our smartphones these days. So, and even when we look at, just commercial products in general that are trending and that people are just using to these days and how they are being advertised, we realize that our youth is very creative, and they definitely have far much more access than what the generation before us used to have. So we definitely, when we have these conversations, I think that the platform has become bigger, and the necessary conversations can definitely be had on those various platforms. And sometimes, when you look at these UN SDGs, you do become a little bit intimidated and think that, there might not be financial supports to really drive these particular agendas, or these agendas could be, really so far and out of your reach. But honestly, I think that with how the world has really become, with how big technology really is now, and with the influence that, our communication platforms and social media have become, we actually have more in our hands than what we realize. And while the government and organizations are actually doing their parts in bringing forward these types of topics and addressing them on the necessary stages, we can also do our bit and actually be part of this particular revolution.
Thank you so much, Ketsu, for that. Yeah, over to Ayo.
All right, thank you, Gloria. All right, so I like to actually pick from what Musani started with, talking about the initiator, the collaborator, and then the question you asked about shared responsibility. Is it shared responsibility? Is it shared equally? Does one person have more than the other? Should be told, this is something I've thought about a long time. And shared responsibility, that can be said, but who has more responsibility than the other? In an African context, it's still a bit difficult to establish who carries more of the responsibility to actually achieve the all of this. That's the honest truth, because we've not been able to really establish in empirical terms the things that we actually want to achieve. That's a big gap for us down here that I have noticed, and it becomes a difficult thing because everybody now is working in silos on all these things. That's the major challenge. Even private businesses are working in silos. So you have 10 organizations working on, say, SDG 4. And I mean, we need to start looking at the possibility of coming together to do something together rather than work in silos. So it's becoming like a competition, like, oh, my organization is doing more, mine is doing more. Rather than competition, we need to start looking at collaboration a lot more, which is something that we drive and we focus on. Another thing that I would say before I ask Samoa to talk about a bit about how we intend to use collaboration on their YSIP project, he knows more about it than I do, to be candid, is that one of the gaps I've seen, which I still mentioned at an event yesterday, let's look at situation of things that happen around us, is that there are I look at 3 or 4 angles, people that are responsible. But when you have an event, for instance, you find out that the professionals on the field implementing something are working on their own. The lawmakers, the government, the policy drivers, the policy makers are formulating their own policies without understanding what is happening outside. And we don't even pay attention to the academia who does the research. So everybody begins to work in silence. Now, the civil society organizations who are meant to do the advocacy are also doing their own. And I always say it, until this was, let me give a practical story. It's the issue of building collapse, for instance, which is about the environment in itself. And I said something that in Nigeria as a country, if we don't bring all these people in the built environment together in terms of policy formulation, in terms of the professionals on the field, in terms of those that conduct research, I don't think we can find a way forward. That's the honest truth. We will just keep doing it without making any progress. We'll just be jogging on one spot, exerting energy, but we're not making any reasonable progress. So we need to begin to look at how we can, even for UNGC, to look at how we can begin to harmonize all these people, everybody together. Somebody has to champion it. That's the funniest thing. Somebody has to be the central body that everybody can listen to. Somebody has to help in itself. People outside don't want to listen to the government because we don't trust the government. So when the government calls for a session, people don't want to listen. That's the honest truth in this part of the world. All right. So when a private firm calls for a session, government agencies don't want to come. You know how it is. So we need a central body like UNGC to create forums like this that would involve people from all these areas. That's the way we can start to build collaboration. Let's also start coming up with data that shows how many organizations are working on each of these SDG in different countries and link them together. UNGC can do that and begin to link them together. That, oh, why don't you work with this organization? You guys are working on the same goal. How can you collaborate to advance and speed it up before 2030? Let me just leave the floor a bit, about a few minutes for Tomoa to explain how we also intend to do that.
All right, so thank you, Ayo, for bringing me, and of course, thank you, Clara, for steering the conversation. It's interesting because most of what we've done during the YC program is to sort of look at areas in which we can begin to look at organizations that are already even doing similar things to collaborate with in actually executing and implementing whatever innovative ideas we've come up with. What we're working on and what we've presented during the closeout program of the YCB is to help SMEs grow, essentially in Nigeria. I mean, there are over 40 million SMEs in Nigeria. So the problem has never been about having SMEs. The problem has always been sustainability for these SMEs. So we came up with an idea which is called Built to Last, that we want to help these SMEs be able to grow, we want to help them to build, and then of course, maybe go beyond the usual 10 years extinction period that most SMEs in Nigeria usually get to, and then maybe fall off. So, our idea is to work with a lot of both corporate and government organizations that are already in that space. Maybe they're doing they are doing their bit, maybe they're not doing enough. We looked at working with SMIDAN, which is the government organization that is in charge of small and medium enterprises in Nigeria. We looked at working with other organizations, even some of them SMEs that are, of course, interested in facilitating funds and access to funds for some of these SMEs. But we found that the major problem that organizations have is not even that there's no fund in the space. The problem had always been accessibility to the fund. And it's always about having the right processes, having the right documentations, presenting yourself, and of course, putting yourself in that space to be able to access that fund. So we're working with a lot of these funding partners, a lot of these other organizations to help drive, let us know what they want. And of course, we can help this smaller organization possess what they want so that they're able to fit in, and there's a handshake and nobody's working in that. So Smidan is doing, they are saying, oh, these SMEs don't have fund, they don't have what they need to get the fund. And the SMEs are complaining that Smidan is not doing enough. So the idea is to let us be the bridge. What exactly do you need, Smidan? Then what do you need as an organization, as a small and medium enterprise to be able to there are a lot of financial institutions in Nigeria that have funds already mapped for SMEs. There's the Tony Melumelu Foundation. There are so many of these funds that they give to these organizations. The problem always been, do you have what it takes to be able to access this fund? And that's the solution that we're brought to be able to resolve, which is sort of aligned to SDG 8, which is decent work and economic growth at the end of the day. So the original intention and the idea behind the SDGs, putting it out there, saying that we have 17 goals, this is when we want to achieve it, is to be able to rein everybody in to want to help to achieve it. So, and that's the purpose of it. So it would defeat the purpose if people keep working in silos and not supporting each other to be able to help us achieve what has already been created. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Tamiwa. Thank you all so much for the amazing insights. I mean, we kind of have delved into some of the other areas that I wanted to also touch on. So since we're already on that, I will just go ahead. So I hear you all say something like there has to be a mindset shift. There has to be a mindset shift in the hearts of the stakeholders, the people in the ecosystem, the private and public sector people. There has to be a mindset shift. I personally see the round circle where the SDGs, the color, the rainbow color shows like there is a nexus and there is a central point. And so everyone has to come together one way or another. How you determine that, just like Lusani said, determining whether you're an enabler, you're a catalyst, whatever it is that you are as an individual, or as an institution, or as a startup, or as an organization, or even as a government, as a government agency, just determining what exactly your role is and deciding to collaborate, deciding to, just change the mindset and understand that we all need to do this together to achieve the goal that we want to achieve for the Agenda 2063. So thank you all for those insights. Yes, moving on in the interest of time, I would like to hear your thoughts on what the role that the African youth has to play, because the Agenda 2063 is supposed to be the youth. The youth, they're the ones who are like the backburners. They're in this agenda, and even the Agenda 2063 is designed in such a way that the young people will have active role to play even in the years to come. So what do you think, what role do you think the youth have to play in steering the Agenda 2063, and what are the challenges that you think have held them back? And then what is your role how does your role in your organization transform to action or contribution to the Agenda 2063? And I can start from Rose.
Thank you. And well, of course, first of all, I do believe that the youth have a very big role to play both in the SDGs, in the Agenda 2030, the Agenda 2063. And I take this again to context because I like to go into a contextual environment. And I was just looking through, and 7 out of the top 10 companies in the world are in the technology space, driven by the 4th industrial revolution. The African youth today can really access this technology, albeit the fact that we know the percentages are not where we would want them to be. They're a little low, but they do access technology. I think if the youth are well equipped with skills and mentorship, they can they can help accelerate this Agenda 2063 and the SDGs. We've seen innovations such as from children in the villages making a vehicle call mock-up out of sticks or a football out of waste paper. That reflects already that there is hunger, there is an understanding of, you know, creating something to use. They want to kick a ball, they don't have the resources to make they don't have the actual ball. They will use whatever resources that they have available to them to be able to do that. So that already tells us that the African youth is in the space, is the challenges that they then have to be addressed. And for me, I think the first, and I'm glad that it made it to SDG number 4, but I think it needs to be louder and louder in the African youth, the content and the quality of our education system. Content and quality. What is it that we are teaching our children? When is it that we are teaching them? And what are we teaching? And why are we teaching them that? We need to stop and move away from the curriculum that has been existing for the last, 60 plus years, still using the same curriculum to teach children. We need to change that. We need to adjust. We need to separate schooling from learning. Schooling doesn't just, schooling is the institution. Learning happens across board. The children need to be put into an environment, a learning environment, whether it's at home, whether it is, when we give them access to the technology, what is it that we are doing as parents to enable that? What are those extra skills we're giving them? If you have a child who is talented in sports, for example, what are those extra hours that you're giving them to spend in that, to empower them to be able to do the things that they enjoy? Because we've put academics, which has, for me, and really it's with due respect to all the people that run the curriculum and stuff, the curriculum is a bit outdated and needs to be looked at, and needs to be really, really looked at. I think the other thing that can then be done is, of course, we have access to subsidized devices. We would like to proudly say that we have, the technology has spread all over and you can easily get a phone, but that's for me and you. But what about those youth that we're talking about that are in areas that they cannot afford? They can't afford a meal. So how do they, and we've come to learn that digital inclusion is the only way you can have inclusion in this age and era. You cannot say you're including me and you don't even know who I am. You don't know where I am, and you don't know what I have access to and what I don't have access to. So really that, and then of course, access to internet. I know that a lot of the countries have the Universal Access Fund, the Universal Services Access Fund. I think that needs to be exploited beyond just having the organization there and staff. Get the youth into those conversations and let's engage, because right now, whenever we suffer, whenever we're talking about unemployment, we're not talking about the old people, we're talking about the youth, and we really just need to equip that. But I think the other big thing is we need to have mentorship programs running around like commodities. For our youth, we need to bridge that gap. We need mentorship every corner that you walk to, so that they are guided towards something, because they have the energy, they have the idle time. Why do you put all this together and stuff? And I was going to actually wrap that and add a conversation that was in one of the questions that was talking about collaboration amongst the youth. And I think really collaboration for the youth, it's a very big word that should not even be used on the youth, simply because they don't even have the basis to understand what is it that is there for me? What is it that I can do for me today? We do not have the youth equipped from the schooling system, from the education system with long-term thinking. So how do we get that to happen? How do we mentor SMEs, the small businesses that are starting and right now they make up 90% of the business around the world are SMEs. How do we have programs, mentorship programs, to empower those youth? Because it's the youth that are starting these businesses and then they're collapsing. How do we empower them through some mentorship programs? So I think without gobbling the whole space, I'll let my fellow panelists plug into that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Rose, for those insights. Before I call on the next speaker to speak, just in the interest of time, I would just like you to touch on what your organization is doing currently, because that's like the next question. So we just like kill two birds with one stone. So IO and the Vodacom representatives here, and of course, Rova Digital, what are we doing? What is your organization doing to empower the youth? What is your organization doing and they're to equip the youth for the Agenda 2063. And we'll just, that will just be like the final remarks we'll have. So Ayo, you can go.
All right, thank you. So let me say that what we are doing internally, in 2019, we created the CEO's Week in my organization. Those are the 2 months that I go to rest, where the young people in my organization rotate it and run the company for 1 week. Tomo happened to be the first person to sit on that chair, sit in my office, run it, and take all the decision while I stay in the common office, or I don't even show up at all. Because they own it, they own that space. So we need to live it by example. So we have a program now, well designed, called CEO of the Week. Now that we're having a lot of more people working, they're working on building a competition around it. Now that we want to limit it to 1 week. So there are some things you do to compete to be the CEO of the week in itself. And it's quite interesting seeing them take decision, asking me when they're boxed to a corner, what should I do? And I'll look at them, I don't know. Take your decision. Don't ask me what you should do. I should be asking you, sir, what should we do? We have this issue at hand. So it's quite funny, it's quite interesting. But the point is, we need to start practicing what we preach in itself. That if we want to create this, they own this future, we need to start living it right now, where they can take the decision and they can begin to do things. And part of the things we're working on, because I'm also an HR professional, but there's a huge gap between between what is taught in school and what is obtainable outside. I've been part of curriculum review, and I know the disaster that it's happening. It's a long shot. So part of the other projects we are on quality education, it's not part of these YSI people. We're going to add it to it. What our organization is doing is that we are launching our foundation to actually drive the YSIP program in itself, and then add other things to it, because we want to give it a life of its own now, so that it can run independently. Is to actually create, we're planning to also create an academy, a social entrepreneurship academy, and also from school to work academy, where people will be trained, and all these things are going to be done as our own contribution, so that we don't just keep complaining about things that are not working. We can begin to look at how things can work. So people that finish university or polytechnic or whatever, and they pass through the NYSC, we want to create a 6-month academy for them, to train them to be employable out there, if for those that want to seek employment, and for those that want to go into entrepreneurship, to start their own business startups, they go through the social entrepreneurship. The idea is to use the SDG model. They're going to pick a goal on the SDG and create a business that they want to do on the SDG. So that's the social entrepreneurship model. I'm already struck partnership with Junior Chamber International Nigeria, of which I am a member as well. So they are a major partner in that particular space. And these are the things we'll start doing from 2022. So that's what our organization is doing. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. Usani and Ketsu.
All right. I think I'll just probably just sum up what's first the organization is doing, Vodacom, and then also just go into my role in realizing the SDGs, not only the one we're looking at, but the whole spectrum of them. Now, Vodacom in itself, has quite a variety and a number of programs. I'll first focus on the ones in education, which are part of our solutions, and then I'll move into the broader company. I think we have what we call, a journey at Vodacom, where we pretty much elaborate how we walk the journey from when a person is young, literally at ECD level, early childhood development level, all the way to when you're a working professional. And how do we enable that? We have programs in ECD centers where we are taking in ICT resources and employing young people that are part of the youth in bringing those skills and teaching those skills to young kids at a very young age. So we have this, I would say, collaboration, the word of the day, between the youth and literally children teaching each other or meeting at the point of technology to enable, children and young people, to be versatile in the skills of technology. Going into primary and high school, Vodacom has partnered with the Department of Education in South Africa in pretty much, digitizing, I would say, the curriculum, right? And what do we mean by that? That the entire curriculum from grade R to grade 12 is accessible, online. And as a Vodacom, obviously, customer, you can access that at no fee. You just need to be a Vodacom customer. You access, learning material, extra learning material, videos, tests, and that system is backed by a data analytics and data insight system that advises you back where you need to focus on. So if it's maths, it just doesn't say maths. It says, you're struggling a bit in calculus, focus a bit more on calculus. Here are a lot more questions on calculus you need to go through. We have 12 schools of excellence around the country. Those are schools where we have, highly specialized resources going into those school, ICT resources going into them. We have 92 teacher training centers. This is where we get young people to go learn ICT skills. I mean, in those we have partnered with Google. We've partnered as well, I believe, with Amazon as well. We have a couple of partners that we say, come together. We have these centers in collaboration as well, once again, with the Department of Basic Education. And this is what we are trying to do. Come with your content. We have provided the equipment, the connectivity. You bring content. Government maybe brings the venue and whatnot, and and in higher education, obviously, the next step of the journey from high school is, bursaries that we give out to young people. Now, in response, even before COVID came, we had begun a zero rating journey where, students in higher education institution could access learning materials at no cost. Obviously, it was expedited by COVID, and now we obviously have zero-rated learning material in, all higher education institutions in South Africa, well, the public ones, and also TVET colleges in South Africa. And obviously, from a commercial point of view, there's also, E-rated data bundles. E-rated meaning very heavily discounted data bundles. For example, at 99 Rand, pretty much a month, there's access to 30 gigs of data. Internally in the business, now going into the broader journey
just in 30 seconds,
a young professional, no problem. We have the Youth Council that shadows executives, with a fixed term, I think, of 2 years. If I'm not mistaken, with the Discover Graduate Program, where we get, average 75 young people. We have interns as well that come into the business with the opportunity to rotate in different places for them to find themselves within the business and where they, would love to be. Our subsidiary Innovator Trust also equips youth SMMEs and grows them. And I'll just end it there amongst many other programs that Vodacom is giving to young people. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Lusani. Vodacom and Neuro, and in general, the organizations here. Rose, I'll just give you this opportunity, just if you can, in just like, I know we're really out of time, so maybe like 1 minute just to wrap up how Rover Digital is pushing the 2063 agenda and how you're doing that actively in your role as well, just in 1 minute, so we can
okay,
wrap up
so
the session.
I think I'll just mention one of the initiatives that we have within the organization called the Digital Girls in Artificial Intelligence. And for us, this is, if you want to call it a weapon to, attack two problems. One, that we don't have enough women in the IT space, and especially when we're looking at the fourth industrial revolution. So that's the gender gap that we have there in the IT, and the fact that we're also dealing with the youth. And this is a program specifically for girls between the ages of 18 to 25 that we get in. They are in a normal workplace, but the program that they are in is really a mentorship program that runs over 5 years, that is able to see and accelerate them from, you know, the green people coming out of college or workplace into leadership roles within 5 years. So every year they go into a different mentorship curriculum to say and have different interactions and really be able to do that. So for me, I look at that and say, in the bare minimum, because we have 15 girls joining the program every year, and over the period of 5 years, we're hoping to see that in 5 years' time, we have 75 women, girls working within the organization that has specifically been crafted for that. That's not roles that are open to other, you know, individuals and stuff. And hopefully that would make the organization have more women, and really that the women are then developing the workplace as they go and being really economically empowered because they are working in the fourth industrial revolution space. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rose. At this juncture, I would love to say a big thank you to the amazing panelists and to the organizations represented here. It's been an interesting conversation on collaborating for success, emerging leaders for Agenda 2030 and 2063. Thank you all for your contributions. And I would just sign out with these words and say, keep doing what you can. The SDGs and the Agenda 2063 is a collective responsibility. We each all have to individually in our various organizations, roles, and various capacities work together for a sustainable and transformative Africa. So we'll see you all in the main stage. Bye for now.